Hi, this is Sam Welker with ThinkParticle.com, and in this video we're going to be talking about sculpting with the Mountain Kit, which is our latest product in Mudbox. So this is kind of a follow-up video to our latest, which was about sculpting in ZBrush and bringing it into Cinema 4D, but this time we're going to work in Mudbox. And if you don't have a sculpting software currently, or if you're using Cinema 4D or something like that, and sculpting isn't really a practical application inside of your software, and it is kind of in Cinema 4D until you start breaking into the millions of polygons, and then it can be very slow on a lot of systems. So if you don't have access to those, Mudbox is only $10 a month, so I highly recommend it. And I've used it for years. I use it over ZBrush sometimes. I actually prefer texturing in Mudbox, but they're both great programs and you can do a lot in both. So anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and kind of recreate these sort of these asteroids, but we're going to do it in Mudbox this time. So let's go ahead and just get started. So the first thing we're going to do is start to build this out. So let's go ahead and just scroll around, and let's turn on wireframe so we can see a little better. Okay, so what we're going to do is just kind of shape out kind of a rough asteroid shape, and kind of get pretty close to our last one, I think. Kind of that jelly bean sort of look. And I think it's interesting. I've spent the entire time doing all of this asteroid design in sculpting software with just a regular mouse, and I didn't realize I wasn't in a sculpting program. And almost always when I'm sculpting I notice, but it's very easy to just do this, which is very nice. It's a very intuitive system. So let's go ahead and let's see, there's gotta be an inflate. There it is. Okay. I just want to use this a little bit to kind of build in some of that form that I like, and kind of just build something out a little bit bigger and in your face. Maybe turn up the strength a bit. Just gonna get a very random shape and just keep on playing with it until I feel like I found something I really, really like. So what I'll do is probably just that right there. So that's good. And we're gonna go ahead and sorry, I'm just getting used to Mudbox again. It's been a little while. But let's go ahead and start adding more resolution. And I actually noticed that it's easier to add more resolution in Mudbox than it is even in ZBrush, which is a nice little tidbit there. So I've added the entire Mountain Kit stamp kit to our stamps. And I'm actually going to delete this. Okay. The entire Mountain Kit is currently available at thinkparticle.com, and you can buy them in packs of 10, or you can buy them in packs of or in a bundle containing all 50 presets. They're height maps, which means it's a black and white image that can turn into a mountain. You can use it for displacement. It's got flow maps as well. And it's not something we mocked up with noise in Photoshop. This is generated with software that creates those sort of things. It's pretty handy. It's a lot of fun to work with. So we're going to use the imprint brush for this one. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually add these. When you want to add a stamp or add these brushes to Mudbox, you click Add Stamp, and then you go and find your brushes, and you just select all of them. And then you'll hit Open, and then they'll be right there. And I did this for all 5 packs. So let's go ahead and we're going to select these. If you just mouse over and hold it for a second, you can actually see which is which item is, or which brush you're using. Also, quick recommendation. For those of you that are using this in Mudbox, Some of these brushes do tend to have hard edges sometimes if you aren't using fall off, and that can occur. So this hasn't really occurred in any other program because they all use fall off natively, but Mudbox doesn't. So you're going to need to go ahead and add some. And you can actually make a pretty harsh curve, but now when you drag it on, you have your mountain, and you don't have to worry about those harsh edges. And to get the actual original shape, all you have to do is just drag it on and make sure that you don't have a curve that's too harsh, because if your curve is too harsh, well, let's go ahead and preview what it would look like. It looks a little weird. So let's go ahead and delete that. We're going to get a nice soft curve, maybe a little harder than that. And then in Mudbox, you've got two really useful shortcuts. If you hold B and drag, B and drag off of your model, it's going to scale your brush, and hold M and it will change the strength of your brush. So we're going to just, scale of the brush actually doesn't matter with the imprint brush. We're going to just turn down the strength of the brush though, and you can just see it over here on the right. And we're going to leave it around probably 6. And we're just going to start adding detail to this object. And we're going to keep these in a similar range of scale. Some of them are going to be a little bigger than others when we pull these out, and we're going to pull them out in different directions. Another thing you can do is you can turn up heavily the randomization of pulling your brush out. So when you pull it down, it'll using the randomness here will actually randomize the direction of the brush. And while we're pulling this down, at least it should. And while we're pulling these around, just pulling in different directions helps too, manually randomizing it. And you get this nice level of detail here. Gives you a really rocky texture, which is good. And this one's actually a lot stronger. We're using a brush that's a lot stronger than the one we did in ZBrush. When we did that sculpt with ZBrush, what happened was we were adding this texture, and it would add texture, but it wouldn't really displace it a lot. But this one's definitely displacing a lot more, but I really like the result that's coming out of it. And the nice thing is the way that we're doing this, it's taking a little bit of time. It's taken a few minutes to just collectively cover this object, but we're getting a nice random variation, and we're going to quickly pull together a very nice asteroid. And it's a lot of fun. It's really easy to just drag these out. So I think I'm going to pause while I finish covering this, because you've seen exactly what I'm going to do for the next few minutes. So I'm almost done with this. I just have a bit more to do. But one thing I thought that I might mention is that, and I mentioned this in the last video, is that if you buy only one kit, the nice thing is that with what we've been doing so far, this has all been just one single brush. So if you can't afford to get the big bundle, which is ideal because it comes with so much variety and so many different options for creating the best possible designs, you know, if you've only got the budget for one at the moment, what you can do is you can just drag these all out in different variations. And this has been one brush. You know, we've created this random variation, and it doesn't look like it's been repeated. It's just a very nice rocky texture. A very nice terrain sort of texture, and it's been one brush. You know, the whole time we haven't really adjusted it. It's just been one. So the point is that it's really easy to pull these out, and you don't have to switch it. And what I'm going to do is I am going to switch it, because you can and get different results, but it's not necessary whatsoever. And you know, in some cases I find brush number 5 is going to give me better results for an initial detail pass, but sometimes brush 6 might help for the details, for the detail brushes. But these all do different things very well. They all have greater strengths in some areas and weaknesses in others. And for example, there's more breakup in more random variation in brush 6. So if I really want to have a rough terrain, brush 6 or height map or mountain detail 6 is really good for that sort of effect. So we've gotten all of this sculpted out, and we've done this all with just 2 brushes to initially create this mountainous effect. And this is so easy, guys. I literally did this in minutes. And, I could iterate for one day and probably pull out 30 or 40 different asteroids. And, when you're working on a big production and, you're going to work on this giant asteroid belt or something like that, I mean, are you really going to use more than 20 or 30 and just copy and paste them and rotate them? I mean, this is so quick if you need to make these, and for the budget of, going out and building all of these different types of, for the budget of going out and buying all of these different items, you could just purchase this kit, spend a little bit of time, and have an entire library, which you can also use to build, terrains and items of that nature. So anyways, there's a lot of things you can do with it. So we've got this really nice rocky texture. And now what I want to do is I want to look at reference. I'm going to look at Google Images. I'm going to pull up a few images of an asteroid and just look at some of these indents. And some of them, actually, this is a really good reference. I should have done this in the ZBrush video, but I didn't. But that's okay. What we can see is there's a lot of indents here. And there's a few ways that we can make indents like this with the mountain kit. And the first way to do that is by pulling out our craters with our crater brush, which is going to have a really big extrusion. So if you need to make kind of a volcano sort of look, or pull these out and have a ton of these just, spread through your object, this is really easy to just pull these out. The next way to do this, and I'm going to just pull a few of these out. And the next thing you can do is, and also one note, I'm going to make that last one a little bit stronger. So those are good for creating a risen sort of crater. So say that there's been some dust kicked up or something like that, and if you layer them, you can get these interesting effects here as well. But it looks like there's been, a hit right here. But the next way to do that is to grab abstract brush number 9. And by the way, the craters and these sort of brushes are all in the abstract kit. Oops, let's redo that. What's the keyboard command for redo? Oh, okay. So we're going to pull in some really simple, oops, that's the soften brush, or smooth, some simple indents. And the way to do this is to make sure that your strength is strong enough, hit Control, and just drag out abstract brush number 9. And we actually want to make that a little bit stronger. And this is kind of like those other brushes. When I told you you don't want to have that harsh fall off, well, this one is actually designed to have a harsh fall off. And on purpose, this is going to give you some really great sort of cutout shapes. So if I want to just take a big chunk out right here of my asteroid, then that's it. That's all I have to do. And that's a little bit strong still, so let's just balance it out. It's still too strong. But these are not hard to make. Oops, let's pull that in. So I can create these very quickly and create a very damaged rough terrain or asteroid. And then I can grab another brush again, and this time I'm going to go with let's go with number 4. And I can just hold control and pull it down, and I can use the detail brushes for that as well. So if you only get to the detail pack because you want to get some nice detail terrains and you like the broader mountain look, then you can also use these for breakup and for destruction. So this is really quick and very simple. And I mean, this has been minutes of work, and I've got a very, very complicated build out of an asteroid. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to pick some textures, and we're actually going to paint on these. And I didn't do this in the ZBrush tutorial. Part of that reason is because working with really, really high dense meshes in ZBrush and poly painting has been a little bit of a headache for me. So I figured let's just go ahead and let's just do this in Mudbox with some projection painting. And the way that works is we go to projection, and then we grab a stencil, and then we pick a texture, and we can hold S and the middle mouse button to move it around, and S and right click to scale it, and S and left click to rotate it. And this is a good texture for starting with for creating an asteroid paint job. So let's name this asteroid base layer, and we'll just make an 8K map. And there we go. And it's going to take just a moment to get it started the first time. And then we can just start painting this on. And we'll use S to rotate it, because if you don't, then you'll get a little bit of a repetitious pattern. The part I want to avoid here is this corner up here. Has a lot of scratches. Excuse me, it has a scratch that's very... It's a tell. You'll know that it's a repeating pattern because you'll see the scratch over and over again. So we'll just keep rotating this. And another thing we could do is grab a different texture, something a little bit better than this, but this will be a good start. And we can also rotate our camera around the mesh, but we want to keep this at a relatively consistent scale and detail. Because if we zoom way out and paint, say, right here, and then we hide the stencil by hitting Q, you can see this paint job versus this one. You know, there's a serious quality difference there. And the solution is to stay plenty zoomed in, and you should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this part, and I'll just kind of create a base layer and get a little bit further with this, and then we'll go ahead and continue from there. Alright, so I've been doing this for a bit, and you'll notice that there's like a consistency in the look, and for just like a, just a general asteroid in your scene, this is going to be just fine. In a production, if it looks like it loops a little bit, but it's not the main in-your-face asteroid, then you should be able to get away with that quite substantially. But if you're having troubles with that, you're having too much detail that repeats, you're going to want to grab some more textures and have kind of a variety of textures for that. But in the meantime, I just wanted to there's a few spots here that kind of seem to repeat, and here is one of them. So if I just hit Q again, and I just paint one more brush stroke in here, you'll see that this line right here matches this line right here, and that looks weird. In fact, that just looks wrong. And the way to fix that is to just go over and just, look for those types of things and find a different part of your mesh or your brush or your, your texture, and stay at a good scale and just go over it and overwrite it. And that'll help with that repeating problem, and you'll be able to get these, obviously consistent patterns, but you won't have to go and find yourself another image to work with. And sometimes that can, just be a waste of time. Sometimes it's really important though, like we were talking about with having that hero asteroid right in your face. If you only have one, maybe go pick up another image. And I'm actually thinking of doing that here in just a moment. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and just finish up this base layer, and then we'll go ahead and add a secondary layer on top of that and see how that turns out. So we'll go ahead and wait till we get there, and I'll just pause. Alright, so it took me a little bit, but I've gone around and I've rough sculpted or rough painted the entire texture. And as you can tell, like I'd mentioned, there's going to be some spots where you're going to just, when you're working with a texture of this, scale, you're going to notice that you're going to end up running into the problem of adding a little bit too much of the repetition. And when you do, just go over and paint it one more time. And sometimes you just need to, oopsie daisy, keep rotating the brush and just pulling in and out of frame, and just make sure that you get the right base layer down. So we've got a good base layer, and now what I want to do is I'm going to go find another texture, and I'm going to just hop onto cgtextures.com, or textures.com, I guess, and let's find a nice base texture. So as you notice, this is actually very white. There's not really a lot of detail to this. So, oops, wrong program. This is very rocky. This is not very realistic. So what we would want to do probably is create a new layer, and this would be an overlay, and we'd want to go ahead and just fill the whole thing with white. And we're going to turn off the stamp, and then we'll go find some more texture. So that first texture we did is going to be great for helping pull in some detail, and this is going to help get some color in the right areas, and then we'll be able to get a little bit more detail from the next texture, and we'll find something that'll work well. And we're going to have both of these layers on. We're going to take this and we're going to screen it and take that opacity down. Maybe we can try overlay or difference, or add. Add might be good. And then we can still have detail in there, but now it's brighter and less, or it's lower contrast, which is a key part for having our asteroid look right. Also, this is a very shiny object, and I'm actually gonna just double check really quick and see if I can adjust that. Alright, so if you go to your object list and click on your default material, you can actually turn the specular off, and that'll help with the painting. And now I'm noticing that this texture is definitely a lot more in line with what I was hoping to get. Something very rocky, something kind of like space ore, and that'll be good. Also, one thing I've noticed is that there's this spot right here that I think I could add a little bit of detail to. So I'm going to grab one of the spine brushes and just pull it out and see what happens. And kind of like it. We're going to try it twice and see what happens. And when you've already painted your textures, it's a good idea to be careful with adding more, but sometimes you can get away with it. And it looks like we did fine. Let's grab just one more brush. strong. And one of these weird things that Mudbox is doing right now, and I bet you could disable it, but when you're using the imprint brush, if you oops, you know what, guys, critical item, you need to use that fall off. When you're using the imprint brush, though, you run into this common issue where, where what you need to do is make sure that your mouse pointer is still over the actual geometry, and that's weird for me, but it works. So that's a key point. You know, software that's weird but works is the software that you invest in. So let's go ahead and just add a bit more. The nice thing is we've already textured this. Oops, let's not do that. But we can still sculpt on it and add a little bit of implicit detail, some extra textural detail. And the nice thing is this is really coming together quite well, actually. I like this. And it's helping bring to life that original shape and design that I had in mind. And I can just, keep dragging in a little bit more here, a little bit there, and inverting some of it. And just having this material on it really helps me to see and understand where I would prefer to have different elements. So I'm going to just keep adding a bit more. Ooh, brush number 1 really brings in that texture nicely. So I'm loving this. This is great. So let's go ahead and, like I said, we're going to add maybe just one more texture and see how that goes. Let's just add a little bit more detail here. It's just something you have to do, Some of these bulges, however, are a bit strong, and I've gone just a little bit too much with the intensity. So let's keep it a little bit lower. And this is an indent, but I think I'd like to pull it out a bit more. And that's looking good. Actually, that's looking really good. And when I plan on recording videos, sometimes I expect a certain level of quality, and sometimes I'm not always entirely where I was hoping to go, but I get pretty close. But sometimes I hit these nice, I strike gold, and I get much better than I actually anticipated creating. And this is one of those times where I feel very, very satisfied with what I've created, and I think it's really coming along quite nicely. And this little edge right here is very, very handy and easy to create, I think. And you gotta blend your brushes and your stamping, and just get it just right, just to pull up this edge. We're just drawing a line and finding good ways to blend it without it being, looking like knuckles. You just got to know where to drag and how much, and that's too much. That is off. And anyways, we won't spend too much time on that. So you get these really cool patterns and shapes, though, and I think ideally and realistically is the best part is I'm having a really good time and getting a lot done. And I could put characters on this and be happy with it as a terrain. This isn't super high res, because the texture was definitely made for a view at this angle, or excuse me, at this distance. But if you wanted to use high resolution textures than what I was using, which is probably under 1,000 pixels each direction, then you could step up and do that. And this is just super cool. Definitely the best asteroid I've ever created. Probably the third I've ever created as well. but it's actually not true. But it's definitely come a long way. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna, like I said, pick up that extra texture, and I'll just do this while recording. I'm gonna look for a maybe look at grounds, and I usually, when I'm looking for something, will just pick an idea, like something kind of like stone, and go see what I can find. And I look under, like for this, I'll look under ground, rock, concrete, and landscapes, because they'll all have different items. And the ground will be gravel, and that's not really gonna be what I'm looking for, so we'll just close that out. So, you know, got to the point and got an idea. I'll look at various mountains and green mountains, and I think that'll cover mountains. And then we'll look at concrete. We'll look at damaged concrete, because that'll actually be really good for this, and rough, and maybe some debris. And we can use those not only for, you know, if we make those black and white, we don't have to use it just to paint on it, but we can also use those as extra detail to, you know, crack and break these asteroids, so that they turn out to be, you know, way better than these ones right here, which is, you know, monumental. These are, you know, fairly decent, so these are going to be really solid. All right, so I'm gonna just scan through these, and then I will jump back in. On a side note, another thing that would be very useful, actually, is going back to the main page and finding one more category, soil. And I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier. Sand is actually our most likely candidate here. So both sand, rough sand, and actually also sand with pebble and cracked ground, those are going to give us the best options for something like this, because, you know, this is a big rock, and in space it's going to have some, you know, space dust, and that's just going to tend to happen. And let's close my wife's Google Chrome down. Okay, didn't mean to open that. And yeah, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to pick just a few more items, and then I'll show them to you and just kind of narrow them down. One thing I'm doing while I'm looking for textures as well is I keep looking back at these asteroids, and I'm actually noticing that these are very, very soft textures. And these textures here are actually reminding me more of powder, like cornstarch or flour, or sand, than of a rock. So first of all, I'll take that into account with the texturing later, but that'll help with understanding what kind of details to add now. I've also noticed there's a lot more chunks taken out, and that's something I could go do. But I think for this case, I'm just going to leave it as is for now, because I don't want to, you know, redo the whole sculpting process. But we'll go ahead and I'll find those textures, and then we'll go. Also, another mention really quick, I had a realization, asteroids and meteors are completely different. Asteroids seem a little bit more like sand and dust, and meteors look a lot more like rock. So we're going to definitely reference a little bit more towards a meteor in this case, because as soon as we take this this paint layer right here of the white and bring it down, you know, it looks like a meteor. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with that. And I've narrowed down just a few items, and I'm just going to pick a few more really quick. Alright, so I am going to kind of break away from a meteor and an asteroid and kind of blend in between, just because I can. And I'm going to go ahead and look at a few textures here, and I need to log in. So now that I've logged in, I can download these, and let's just go ahead and refresh these pages. So we have this first item, and there's a few ways to do this. I think I'm going to go with the medium-sized images and just download a few of them. And I really like this one. And this is good too. this texture, I'm definitely going to stick with this one. And here I'm going to use actually 2 textures. I'm going to use both of these, and they are really solid. Let's go ahead and get a few of these as well. And let's see, you run out of credits after a certain point for free. So I'm going to snag these, and I think that leaves me with 1 credit. So let's see, was there one? I think this one. And yep, that's right. So now we've got all of those downloading or downloaded, and we're gonna just actually jump into the downloads folder and grab all of these images, and there we go. They should all be in there, and it actually looks like a few of these came in with the wrong date, so we'll drop those in too. And now we've got a wider variety of options. So we have our original texture, but now we also have this one, which is really going to do wonders. We'll just add this layer as well, and we'll add this to a new layer, and then shrink it down and shrink the brush down. Let's just do a quick stroke. Oh, that is not what I meant to do. Paint tools. Okay. So this is something that I think would be better handled. Actually, let's set this to 100%. Better handled if I don't have it at full opacity. So if I just kind of brush it in where I need some variation. So, you know, from time to time, just go find some random spots and just add this. And don't paint like this, because what you're going to do is warp your textures. So let's go ahead and go back up. And I think I just broke my rule, so we're going to fix that. And yeah, I broke it again. And again. There we go. And this is definitely turning out to be a nice additive texture. And it lags a little here or there, but, you know, my computer, well, this is actually embarrassing. I'm pretty sure that my computer's hard drive, I haven't managed it as well as I should have. My hard drive is currently, I think, about 3 gigs from being full. Now I'm running a solid state drive, so it's not a hard drive. The hard drive has about 300 or 400 gigs on it, but available. But that mixed with this being a 6 million poly object and an 8K texture cause it to lag just a little bit at times. But, you know, considering what we're working with here, this is very impressive that it's even able to manage this much. So we'll just kind of blend in these textures here. I'm going to scale it up a bit. And I'm just going to go around and see where it could use it. And those spots are just going to get a quick swipe or two. And this part also might benefit from some variations as well. And remember to pull back and just kind of look at the whole thing. Like right now, I've noticed that this section could really use a little bit of, I guess, both denser detail, you know, up close painting to get that extra detail that it really should have. And then also, like some of these veins right here, or excuse me, some of these spots right here could use a little bit more painting as well, just to kind of help bring it all together. And that's looking really good. So we've got a few more textures here that we can add, and I'm going to add these as other layers as well. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and add a new layer. It asked me to, if I wanted to hide my my other layers so I had enough video memory. And I think it's warning me to save, which might be a good idea. So I'm going to pause and save real quick. Alright, so it's finishing up saving. It's slowing down because it's saving all of the textures. I actually had everything in VRAM and in RAM, and it's kind of a lot to put on the computer at times. So I'm going to just keep going here, pull out and just kind of, let's see, give this a little bit more opacity. Maybe not that much, actually. Just kind of dim it down and see where this just might be a nice, I guess, I almost want to say flavor, a different twist. Something different, you know, a nice variation. I'm just going to keep it pretty subtle. And I'm going to put these both on top of our Asteroid base layer. And this one can feel very strong. So maybe actually a good idea would be to kind of fill the craters with these debris. Tells the story, or helps to tell the story. And you don't have to do this for everything, you know, this is definitely something you can, you know, do a little here, a little there, and frankly, I think that'll give you a better result. Sometimes I just feel like I have OCD and just have to paint the same thing in the same places, and I'm sure other people feel that way too, where they feel like they have to be sure that if they paint rocks in one of the craters, then they have to paint them in all of them. Nobody wants to feel left out. But yeah, so we've got enough, and I'm gonna just pull that down. So that adds a nice contrast. It just kind of darkens it up, and this is just a very strong texture. I think it's really good, and we've been working at this for a little while, but not that long. And I'm gonna add just one more texture here, and we're gonna just disable in view that last texture and create one more. And this one's gonna be pulled down too, and it's got to take just a moment to load. And we're just gonna kind of brush this out over here, and probably just over here, as kind of a, you know, a little variation. And it's just this subtle extra layer of detail that comes in, and you know, this is one of those things that if you can get it right, it can bring you to the next level. And we'll just go around the meteorite because we already defined a texture language for that, meaning we darken it up, and we'll just kind of keep it as is. And having that base layer initially really helps, because if you look at this, you know, this is our meteorite and asteroid, and it's got, you know, some personality to it, but it doesn't have too much, you know. It's not too strong. And we were able to move in a new direction with it, but still have something to base it off of, which is just, it makes everything a lot easier. And this is the last thing I'll do. I'm gonna paint in some cracks. And I'm actually going to take this brush, and there should also be fall off in this one. And I'm just gonna pull it back and see how this looks, so that it's very, very soft, and this is great. And so what we do here is we take this, and then we can darken it, or multiply it, color burn it. Let's just stick with darken, or overlay. So darken is a great way to just add these cracks in texture, just in texture. It's very easy, unless you're actually going to have the texture or the asteroid right in front of your face. You don't really need anything more than that. And it just kind of, man, that just looks cool. It's that final effect that just really brings it together. So, and this wouldn't be a good thing particle tutorial if we didn't compress this all down and render it. So what we're going to do is we're going to just add a quick crack pass, and just kind of, I mean, it feels kind of scaly, but it's really cool. And then we'll bring it into Cinema, and we'll work with that. And probably use Octane. So yeah, that last crack pass really just brought that together, and I'm very proud of that, very happy with that. And yeah, I think this is a really solid texture. And then we just get some good lighting and some good environments in here, and you know, we could put like a little lunar lander dude on it or something, but we'll probably just leave it as is. So we'll save this, and yeah, what we're going to do now is we're going to export it. So let's go ahead and export. Let's start by exporting all of the painted layers, and let's merge them into one, and just keep it simple. And we're going to pick the folder we're going to go into, and I'm going to figure that out and save. Alright, so I'm in my tutorial folder for the meteorite. This is meteorite number 3, because we made that other one earlier, and I made one before that. But anyways, we're just going to call this meteorite texture. And actually, we'll just save that and choose this directory. Actually, we really don't need to give it any other particular name. We'll just do that. And we will merge all groups, or merge all channels, excuse me, and export. So that's going to export, and then we'll export the mesh. And we might want to see if we can actually make a displacement map first, and we'll see if we can do that in Mudbox, and if not, we could jump into ZBrush. But the point of this is to export it in Mudbox. So what I'm going to do is get that figured out, and then I will jump in and explain it. All right, so let's go ahead and go to Maps and, UVs and Maps, and go to Extract Texture Maps, and we're gonna just create a new operation, and we're going to call this normal and, or excuse me, AO and displacement. And we're going to get to the ambient occlusion map and the displacement maps. And we're going to go to the ambient occlusion first and set it to best quality. Set 8K as the output. And we could use 2K for the shadow map resolution, I think, here. Yeah, let's go with 4K just in case. Never hurts to be safe. And we're going to output a texture. We'll call it AO. And then we'll go to displacement and do the same thing. We'll make this 16-bit and name it displacement. And then we will look down, and we need to make sure that we're coming from the right level. We want to look at level 4. And then we just hit extract. And it's extracting that detail. And then it's going to give us a result. And we're going to let it load. Alright, so mine actually failed, so I'm going to just try this one more time. And I should be saving these, it looks like, so let me go ahead and save these. And that would probably cause the problem. So let's go ahead and go. Okay, and let's make these 8K. And 2K. Shadow maps, and everything else looks good, so let's go ahead and hit extract and see how this one goes. Alright, so I am just waiting to close this tab. Again, these are just very high resolution items that I'm working with. My computer's just seen a lot of rendering in the last couple of weeks, so I think it just needs some cleanup and some R&R. But this should take just a minute, and then we'll go ahead and look at the images and make sure we get the right mesh, and we'll export it. Alright, so the calculations have finished, and if we just take a look at this, you can see, first of all, the AO map, or the ambient occlusion, helps pull in just a little bit of darkness and just some of these cavities and crevices. And it's really just prominent in some of these craters. And the bump map we can disable or enable. And that is our displacement map. So if we, let's see which layer we're on right now. We're on 7. So we're going to jump down. We're going to go down to 4. And, excuse me, just moving the mic. We're going to go ahead and enable the bump map. And also the diffuse maps. And that should show us the displacement. Also, that might be necessary in here as well. But regardless, anyways, we have the displacement map, and that's the key part. So we can export this mesh and use this displacement map, which was mapped to level 4, and we'll save it. And it's just going to save those textures, and then we can bring this into Cinema. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and we're actually just going to, export this, and we're going to leave it at that. We had a different tutorial that we used ZBrush and showed the lighting in there, and I think we'll just leave it at that for now. Here, let's name this level 4. Okay. And anyways, what we've done is we've sculpted in Mudbox, and we've created all of the textures and maps and everything that we'll need. And we have a final product, and it took about an hour of recording. And I probably didn't spend more than 20 or 30 minutes not recording. So, an hour and a half for, a finalized asset. It's not too bad. I'd say that's a fair amount of work, but a good turnout, especially for a first iteration. And to be honest, I probably could work faster in Mudbox in a week than I could right now, because I haven't used Mudbox actively since like 2014. So actually that's not true. I think it was earlier than that. But anyways, I'm not trying to say that I'm not capable. What I'm saying is that I think we did a great job for how long we actually spent doing this. So we're going to go ahead and just wrap right there. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to spending more time creating training like this. And be sure to check out thinkparticle.com, and you'll be able to get the mountain kit. And because you finished watching the video, you get 10% off. This is a code that works for the mountain kit, and it'll actually work for everything else too, currently, and that is the code IFINISHED, all one word. And go check out the mountain kit. You can learn more about it and download your copy today at thinkparticle.com. Thanks for watching. I'm Sam, and I'll catch you guys later.